Hi, I'm Steve Rose. I've been a chef for 35 years, proud owner of the greenest restaurant in the entire San Francisco Bay Area, and farmer here at Rose Ranch. We do things green around here though. What sets me apart is that green is not just a buzzword like a lot of people use. Green is an operative word, and it's really easy to do. I'm going to share with you my secrets on how to do this at home. We're going to have fun, and living green, living truly green, is really a blast. I really believe that people want to learn how to live this way, they just don't know how to go about it, and that's the whole purpose of the show, is to teach people how to do that. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Welcome to the Organic Rose. Three things today: water conservation, solar energy, and electric cars that are being charged by solar panels. Join us and get a charge out of your life. Hi, I'm Chef Steve Rose from the Organic Rose, and today I have my friend Dr. Nick Carter, who is virtually an expert on electric vehicles and solar panel, and that's what we're going to discuss in today's episode. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my wife and I have been driving electric since 2002. So we're kind of used to plugging in the car at home, not going to a gas station.
Nice.
We have one fully electric car and one plug-in hybrid electric. So that way most of our miles are electric, but we have the flexibility to go on longer trips with our plug-in hybrid. And we also have a 3 kilowatt solar electric system on our house, and that covers all the electric usage of the house and both the cars.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And anybody can really do this, right?
Yeah, that's part of our message, is to let people know it's very easy, it's very convenient, it's very cost effective, and it's just a great experience. And you're part of the solution rather than being part of the problem.
And the cars that I know of, I mean, are very safe. I mean, mine has like 6 airbags in it. I feel totally safe in it, and it's just such a comfortable, really smooth ride with a lot of good acceleration when you need it. Mine actually has 3 driving modes. It has normal, sport, and eco. So if you're merging onto the freeway, you hit the sport
mode,
and it
away
just
you
takes off. Yeah, it's like, whoa.
That's the grin, right? There is the EV grin. There's no substitute for that.
No.
When you put your foot down, and it's just like an electric drill. It just responds instantaneously, and away you go. Yeah, that's something that's kind of hard to give up. Once you've had that experience, you're not going to go back to a gas car and go out of your way to fuel it at a gas station when you can just plug in at home.
Exactly. Yeah. And ours like yours, it's fueled by the sun, by our solar panels.
Right. So we have the fuel station is right there behind
right on my
us
roof.
on the roof. Yeah.
Tell me the differences between a combustion engine and an electric vehicle.
So the nice thing with an EV is it's very simple. There's one moving part. You have the electric motor instead of your combustion engine. Typically you have a fixed gear ratio, so in essence you've got rid of the gearbox to the transmission, right? And what does that mean? Well, electric motors go on almost forever. So in terms of the service requirements for the vehicle, they're minimal. There are EV drivers who've been out there driving for years, done maybe 100,000 plus miles, and never been in for a service. So
wow.
As long as you've replaced your fluids, your washer fluid, whatever else, rotate your tires. That's about it in terms of your service requirement. And of course, no smog check, right? We got rid of that one.
Nice.
So that's another expense. Oil changes, they're just things that don't concern you anymore.
Tell me about the regeneration of energy in the vehicles. How does that work?
Every motor is basically a generator, or can be. You're just running that motor backwards. So instead of putting the energy of the motion of the car out in heat when you slow down with friction braking, that's typically what you're doing in a gas car, right? There's something squeezing on the disc attached to the wheel to slow it down.
Right.
That turns that energy of motion into heat, and the heat is just thrown away. So that hard-earned money that you put in fuel is basically just being burnt off. Just like it is when you're idling at a stop sign or stoplight, right? The engine's still running, your hard-earned cash is just being burnt and thrown out the tailpipe, right? That's not happening with these cars. You just sit there, nothing is happening until you go. And similarly, when you go down a hill, you're running that motor backwards, which slows the car down, takes that energy of motion and puts it back in the battery. So you're getting some of that energy back to use as more range.
How are the batteries made? What are they made of?
How long do they last?
So typically now, and certainly for all the pure EVs, they're lithium batteries, just like in your cell phone or laptop.
Okay.
Same chemistry, more or less. Some of the plug-in hybrids are using nickel metal hydride, but lithium is typically the chemistry of choice. Normally they're in the floor pan of the car, and typically they'll have a warranty of maybe 8 years, 100,000 miles of that order.
Nice.
So you're really not worried about the lifetime of that part of the car. It's got a very solid warranty. And already with the earlier EVs, we're seeing battery replacement programs and costs in place that are very reasonable. So now, if that's your biggest expense, like I was saying before, you know what your cost of driving is going to be, because
Exactly.
you buy that battery, and it doesn't just suddenly stop working at year 8.5. You know, it still has life in it, and you'll see gradual degradation of the performance. So if you have an 80-mile vehicle and it's only doing 60 miles, but your need for your commute or around town is 40 miles, it still does the job, right? Back to our discussion about using the right tool for the job.
Right.
It can still be the right tool for the job, and then at some point, new battery pack goes in, back to like new performance, and off you go for another 8 or 10 years.
How big are, not seeing underneath my car, how big are the batteries?
So the individual cells might only be like the size of a paperback book,
Okay.
but the pack itself will typically fill the floor pan under the 4 or 5 seats. Yeah.
Interesting. And are those individual cells replaceable, or do you have to replace the entire pack?
I think they can do. Yeah, they can monitor individual cells, and then taking it to the dealer would know if there was a problem with an individual cell and swap that one out. But I haven't heard many stories of cells failing.
No, I haven't
so
either.
It's a pretty reliable piece of the car. And as we don't have many other moving parts involved in the vehicle, it's another aspect that makes this such a wonderful choice.
I feel so safe in my car because when I'm driving down the road, the car pulls down. Is it because of all the weights of the battery underneath
So
the
it's
car?
nice. You have a much lower center of gravity typically because the battery is in the floor pan of the car. So you do have that low center of gravity, which helps the going around corners and, like you say, helping you feel safe because you have the stability of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it. And plus I use mine, I use it almost like a little pickup truck because the seats fold down.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Likewise with this.
Yeah, I'm driving around with like 20 bags of concrete in the back and just different things like that. It works out really well. Fill it with groceries or what have you.
Yeah, that's nice with the plug-in hybrid that we can use it for all different things. I've had logs in there and compost, and clean it up afterwards, and you're good to go.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, you're the expert in this. I'm just a chef, and I just put the key in and I drive. And anybody else can do it, right?
Yeah.
But tell us about the big picture. How is this affecting the big picture of our planet?
So I think the big picture for me is we're already seeing the effects of climate change. We're having so-called superstorms or once-in-a-century storms that are now happening regularly.
Every couple of weeks.
Right, it seems to be almost every couple of weeks. So I'm not sure what it'll take to get the message across, but we need to be making changes now. And you often hear people say, well, we're going to limit temperature rise to 2 degrees, for example. That's the most common number that's used. But that, in order to do that, we have to make significant cuts in our carbon emissions. We can't carry on with business as usual, and that's what we're doing. We're just carrying on as if we can live this lifestyle, and that'll get us to a 2-degree rise in temperature. And that's not the case. You know, in order to get that 2-degree rise only, we have to cut maybe 80% of our emissions.
That's huge.
It's huge, yeah. And the nice thing is you're already doing that with your car. You're generating the fuel with 0 emissions. You're driving a 0-emission vehicle. And you're pretty much living the same lifestyle that you were before.
Why do you drive what you drive?
So I think we've talked a bit about the big picture issues that are driving our decisions. You can look at various other factors, how much money you save by plugging in your car rather than going to a gas station. We pay probably 2 cents a mile, maybe 1.5 to 2 cents a mile. If you compare that, even with gas prices as they are now, people are saying they're low, but you're still paying probably 3 times that cost, even if you're driving a very fuel efficient car. So typical car maybe doing 20-25 miles to the gallon, you could still be saving perhaps 75% on your fuel cost. That
That's a
adds
lot.
up, you know,
Yeah,
it's a lot of money,
of course.
right? And nobody's giving you hundreds of dollars a month. And I think the other thing is that we don't drive as far as we think we do. So you may drive and run a lot of errands during the day, and you think, wow, I did a lot of driving today. But if you look at the odometer and see how far you went, often it's not very much. And the range of an electric car or a plug-in hybrid will cover those miles, typically. But now we have such great infrastructure for charging the vehicles. You're a lot less worried about range issues because it's very simple to pull up the appropriate app on your phone, check for your destination, where you're going. We were just in Sacramento, and you pull up the map. There are pins on the map all over Sacramento, just as an example,
Nice.
for places to go in the public parking garages where you can plug in. So then while you're at your meeting or you're having lunch or whatever, you're filling your car. So again, you're getting back maybe 25 miles for each hour that you're plugged in. That makes a big difference, right?
Well, yeah.
If you're running errands in the morning, you charge for a couple of hours, you probably get back all those miles that you've just driven. You're basically full again with all of the afternoon and evening ahead of you. So I think, again, it's very flexible, very good at meeting most people's needs most of the time.
And even, I mean, you can go to various restaurants that I know of and go and have lunch. You know, go in and have lunch for an hour or so and top off your motor, and off
Right.
you go to continue your errands.
And now we're starting to see where you'll patronize a town or a village or a restaurant because they have that facility. So are you going to go somewhere where there's a charging desert? No, you're going to go somewhere that's very accommodating, has all those choices. And that's what we tend to do now. We'll go somewhere because we know it's very easy to plug in over here. We're going to get a spot there, and we'll be able to go to our favorite restaurant at the same time.
That's a great term that you used, charging desert. Because there's a food term like that as well, food desert, where there's neighborhoods that that are very void of anywhere to go and get healthy food.
I know, I had that experience personally. I won't mention where just recently, but I was traveling for business, and I went shopping, I think, to 3 different places. I think people don't necessarily understand that it's full every morning. So your fueling is happening more often in bite-sized pieces rather than you drive for a week and then the fuel gauge goes from almost empty to full, right?
Exactly.
It's full every morning. So you have that 80 miles. And say you run a lot of errands in the morning, you can always plug it in the middle of the day. Then it's directly being fueled from the solar on the roof. Then you're full again. You've got another 80 miles to use in the afternoon. So it's not like you're rationed and then you're standing there next to the vehicle while the thing slowly charges up. It's a different mindset of, I'm just used to, I get in the car in the morning, it's full. You know, the fuel fairies appeared in the night and took care of it for me, right?
Exactly.
And all I had to do was go like that. That's it.
So you really don't need a 20-mile per gallon SUV to go get a carton of milk.
Exactly. That's the summary right there. You know, use the right tool for the job. You know, which is, we have our plug-in hybrid here today because we're going further, we're going around visiting people, we're doing longer distances. It's the right tool for the job. But as soon as I'm back home and I'm going for that, you know, short-run errand to the store or to the, you know, hardware store to pick up something small, this will be running all electric, and we're back to basically running on sunshine off our roof.
Yeah.
So what's a sweeter deal than
It doesn't
that?
get any better than that, I don't
Right.
think. I mean, it's.
Right.
I mean, I love mine, and it's no different than, you know, myself in the kitchen. You have to have the right tool for the job, right? Whether it's the right pot, the right pan, the right pressure cooker, the right knife, whatever. Same thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, lots of people are using a really big knife to. I don't know. You choose that.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
So what were you driving before this switch, Steve, and what made you make that change?
You're going to shoot me. I was driving a 1981 pickup truck, getting 7 miles to the gallon, with gas prices.
That was 7.
Yeah, 7, not 17, not 70. It was 7 miles to the gallon, and I started thinking, this makes no sense. I'm trying to affect some type of change in my life and everybody else's life. I don't need to be driving this truck. So that went out for sale, and I sold it.
And that was mostly used for local trips and moving stuff around.
Yeah, and it was a ranch truck. I moved cement and lumber and you know, feed and that sort of thing. All of our materials for our vineyard. And then we were driving a large SUV. That went away. That was getting 17 miles to the gallon. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not the organic rose at all. This is not my image. So this stuff has to go away. And it went away. And then I went ahead and got this electric vehicle, and I love it. It's handy, it's safe, it's comfortable. I haul things in it. My wife loves it, except the part that all the voice activation, I programmed it all in Spanish, so she can't understand what the car's saying to her, right?
But apart from that,
But apart from that, it's a great vehicle, and it gets me where I want to go. And you know, the range is really good on it, and the batteries tend to be a little bit temperature sensitive. If it's cold and rainy out, they get a little bit less charge. I love the regeneration part of it. That's really important to me, where I'll go run an errand. I have 80 miles of range, and I'll get to my destination, which is maybe 15 miles from here, and then I'll run a couple errands, come back here, and I've got 70-mile range. And I've traveled way more than 10 miles.
right. Something you never see in a gas car is the fuel gauge going up.
No,
Right? Well, unless you're plugged into the
Exactly,
fuel pump.
exactly.
So that's a nice feeling.
So
right?
that's why I love it too. It just keeps topping itself off every time I apply brakes, and I can well imagine if we didn't live out in the country, if we lived in the city, how very little you would need to charge it. I mean, every time you come to a stoplight or a stop sign, if you choose to stop, which you should, it's topping it off.
Today we're going to learn about water conservation in the household and in the farm, landscaping, inside, outside, what have you. My friend Keith is an expert in water conservation. Keith, tell me about yourself.
Well, my name's Keith Arbales. I live in Sebastopol, California. I work for the Sonoma Resource Conservation District.
Okay.
I'm their Water Resources Program Manager. So I'm working on a number of projects and programs in rural areas of our county, throughout Sonoma County, to help people better manage their water and to conserve it wherever possible. So we're trying to help people to have the water they need, manage it well, but also help to protect the natural resources here, make sure there's enough water for our natural features too.
I know water falls from the sky sometimes when we're lucky, but how does it actually come to us other than rainfall?
Well, that's a great question. There's a whole system built here to bring us water, and here in Sonoma County, we draw from two different reservoirs. So there's one in Mendocino, and then there's one in Sonoma County up Dry Creek Valley. And so when we get these big rain events in the winter, sheet flows come down the sides of the mountains there, and they fill up our reservoirs, and then they release water from the reservoirs into the Russian River and the Dry Creek Valley, and it ends up in the Russian River. And then near Forestville, they have underground pumps that are connected to the river underground, and they pump the water from there, and then it goes through a whole system, what we call aqueducts, and it delivers it to the cities and to the other water contractors, who then sell it to the people in the cities and various areas where they provide water. Now, a lot of people in our county live in rural areas that are not on the system, so those people are pumping water from wells on their property from the groundwater and the aquifers that are underneath us.
Why do we need to conserve water?
Well, that's a good question. Water is a finite resource. We can't make more of it. We can build a dam or pump more of it, but those are expensive ways to deal with it. What we really want to be doing is making the water we have go further, and to save it whenever possible, either for later or for other uses. So it's just essentially, we're here in California where water is really scarce, the population is growing, and now we're in 4 years into a drought, so there's less water than there was previously. So we need to make the water go as far as possible, and that's both prioritizing what we need the water for, but when we do want to use the water, using it in the most efficient way as possible.
So the point is, I guess, what Keith and I are talking about is we need to conserve water. We're not having a lot of water, and it's probably, we're going to get more and more of this. So you brought some of your props with you on different ways to irrigate, whether it be in your garden at home or house plants, what have you. Kind of tell us a little bit about what you have.
Okay. Well, I brought a few items here, and some are better for conservation than others. This is drip tube here, and it has little emitters every 6 inches or so, and you can lay that out in your garden, and it's very precise, so it only drips right where you want it, as opposed to a sprinkler, which is kind of hitting everything.
More of a shotgun approach.
Yeah, and these deliver so much more water. I mean, it might be 10, 20 times more water, and it's fun to water with these, and it's beautiful, but you're watering more than you need to, which one is not an efficient use of water, but then you're also creating a lot of weeds, and those weeds then suck water and compete with the plants you actually want.
Right, and then you're involving labor to remove those weeds, right?
Yeah.
So it's costing you more money that way.
Right. These emitters are really great. You can see these, and so they drip out of here. You plug this into a hose or at the end of a spaghetti tube, and then it drips out of here, and like you say, it's real precise. It goes right where you want it, and you can put real precise amount of water on each one and not have a lot of weeds. Another really positive thing people can do is, wherever possible, replace your lawn. And you mentioned using edible lawn landscaping, but it ends up grass takes an incredible amount of water. Yeah. And if you look around, especially in our urban landscapes, a lot of times there's places where there's grass that people never go on, like on the sides of streets, or even at your home. You might have a section, it might look pretty, but you could put something else in there that's pretty. And there's a lot of options now, both with edible landscaping, but there's something people call xeriscaping or low water use gardening. And we're seeing some beautiful gardens go in with native plants that look beautiful, that create habitat, that don't use a whole lot of water, and you can put those down, you can put mulch all around it, keep the weeds down, it's a lot less effort, and it can look beautiful, oftentimes more beautiful than grass. I think people need to rethink their approach to gardening, and I think we're seeing a lot of that in California, where people are always like, well, I want a lawn, because that's what's good, but sometimes you can just have a little patch of lawn or no lawn at all, and have a beautiful outdoor landscape. Another thing I would start doing is turn off your water when you don't need it. So if you're brushing your teeth and you brush your teeth for 2 or 3 minutes, turn on the water, get your toothbrush wet, turn it off, brush your teeth, and when you need to rinse your mouth, then that's the time to turn it back on. I think a lot of us have old habits. We turn it on the whole time we're brushing. Don't need to do that. We're not using that water. It's just going down the drain, literally. So those are 2 things. Outside, I would get one of these wands where you have a shut-off, so that while you're watering, it's on, you're getting all the water you need, and then boom, you turn it off, shut it off, and then during that time you're either talking or you're moving or you're going to get something, it's not watering. So that's another thing I would do. Shut-off valves are critical too. You put this on your hose. If you just turn on the spigot a lot of times, like I said, you walk away, someone comes up to talk to you, you need to do something, the water keeps running. You put this on the end of your hose, and you need to do something else, you turn it off, and then the water's not running, you're saving all that water for later or for another need.
And what I've always noticed also is make sure that all your washers are in good condition, because a lot of times
the gaskets wear out.
You have this screwed into your spigot, you even turn the nozzle off, but it keeps dripping, right?
Sure.
So make sure that you change all of your washers is a huge thing as well. One of my things, having a kitchen focus, is to reuse that lettuce washing water, that vegetable washing water, and use that into your vegetable gardens or your flowers or your plants inside the house. I mean, that works really well.
Sure. Another thing people can do, right away, is they can go and survey all their water infrastructure, as it were. So you can go around and look and find, where are your leaks, and where almost everyone has a place in their house where there might be a valve that needs to be replaced, or there's some issue, or an old sink that drips, and people need to start identifying what's working and what isn't working.
Keith, I want to thank you so much. I learned so much today, and our viewers have learned a lot as well, and we have to conserve water is the bottom line here, but we can do it easily. It's very easily. There's so many new products on the market now to allow us to do that, so we can continue to conserve and make efficient use of the water that we have.
Exactly. There's a lot of options. They don't have to be expensive, and if everyone takes part at some level of conserving more water and paying attention to how they manage their water, we can do a lot of things and have a lot of positive results. And I encourage people, whenever they can, to try to conserve water and make the best use of what they have.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining me on the Organic Rose. Hopefully you got what we call in the industry a lot of takeaway: conserving water, driving electric cars, and solar energy. Enjoy it.